r/AskReddit posted by u/Damitabas. What was the most fucked up thing you saw in school? Some kid kept shitting in the sink every week and they had to keep cleaning it up. One day I walked in the bathroom and someone had put shit on the wall. Had some girls in my high school who were creating works of art in the same fashion. They were deemed the fecal phantoms, and were never caught. We had the notorious shit swastika smeared on the walls of a stall one day. Never found out who did it. A kid in my school year stabbed one of my friends in the back. Not verbally, I mean with an actual kitchen knife. We were 11. When I was 9, someone stabbed another kid in the back with a maths compass. Just randomly with no real motive or logic. I had a friend that was allergic to so many things he had to eat the same thing every day that he brought from home. I literally mean every day for years. He had a very bad day, failed a test, some things happened at home. We met up at lunch and he had 2 slices of pepperoni pizza. He said today seems like a good day to die and proceeded to wolf down both slices. I had never seen him so happy. I walked him to the nurse's office as he ballooned up. He was hospitalized for 2 weeks. He never regretted the decision. A couple fucking in the dumpster behind the cafeteria. For the rest of the year, people would walk up behind the dude crinkling paper and asking if it was getting him hard. Like physically in the dumpster or just behind it in some sort of enclosure? Inside the dumpster. Many years ago I sat next to a kid in high school who went on to kill his mom. He would always bring in photos of homemade bombs from 2-liter bottles, flamethrowers from squirt guns, etc. I thought it was the coolest thing and was so impressed by it until later on when I recognized I was encouraging it to be murderer to keep being violent. A kid clipped the tip of his tongue off with a pair of safety scissors after someone dared him to. One of my brother's friends cut the very tip of his nose off cause someone dared him to. Having a guy who killed his wife then come to the school and held my class hostage to try to force the school to give him his son so he could kill him. He was finally caught on his way to kill his parents. Edit. Another thing, kind of. My chemistry teacher, years after I graduated, worked at the school with his wife. They had adjoining classrooms. He shot and killed the vice principal after school. He was in a meeting with him and the union rep because he was accused of inappropriate contact by a female student. Went out to his car to get his gun, came back and killed the VP. Watched 2 girls get into a fight. One girl had a bunch of ear piercings and was wearing so many hoops it looked like chainmail. The other girl got her on the ground, grabbed those hoops and pulled. Hard. I will never forget the scream. The rings didn't give, but her ear sure as hell did. Blood everywhere, the girl standing over her like a goddamn psychopath holding a very recognizable ear in the air above her head. It was fucking Mortal Kombat in real life. Girl fights in school were always nuts. My very first day of high school 2 girls got in a fight. They were punching each other, clawing at their faces and ripping each other's weave out, and a teacher came to stop them. Well, this teacher was rewarded with a shot to the kidney and he got dropped. What an intro to high school that was. They were always the best fights though. I saw one girl calmly throw her lunch away and walk up behind another girl who was walking out and she just annihilated her in the back of the head with the lunch tray. The sound it made was loud and honestly kinda funny. Our school bully, nasty piece of work we'll call C, ripped the wig off a new student, A, who had recently returned from cancer treatment. They got into it and A was suspended despite multiple witnesses. We suspect even the teachers were slightly scared of C. Next day as we were leaving, A was waiting outside for the doors to open, comes straight in, grabs C's hair, slams her head into a locker, then proceeds to pull out a huge pair of scissors and violently chops off as much hair as she can before the teachers intervene. She was obviously expelled, but man, she's still my hero. Bully C was definitely put in her place after that and absolutely toned down her torment of everyone else. Wish I knew what became of A. Edit. As some PPL were asking about what happened to C and A, and I'd like to clarify, those are not their names, but I called some old friends tonight to see what we could dig up. We do not know superhero A's last name, so no info sadly, but I'd like to think she's doing amazing. On to the bully. So there is a reason I couldn't pull up any current info on her, and as I suspected, she did pass away in 2003. This is not cause for celebration, as from what I gleaned from old friends it was a suspected drug overdose. She wasn't a kind person by any means, but she was also dealt a pretty shitty hand, and I feel sad for her and those that loved her. Doesn't excuse her behavior, at aged 14 to 17, but I have no interest in bashing her. She was a terror, but she was a product of her environment and didn't stand a chance to make a better life for herself. She died alone aged 26. My school had this thing called intervention. It was like study hall, but only around 25 minutes long, and it was designed to help out kids who needed help finishing work. Though let's be honest, it was just a short study hall meant to fill up the school day, and it was always right after lunch. We had to wait outside the classrooms for the teachers to get back from their lunch breaks though. Sometimes they came quick, before or right after we got there, but other times they came late. One time my teacher came 15 minutes late. And they never came at the same time, so it was awkward, being alone in the hallway while everyone else was in class. It was 8th grade, and a rather bad day for teachers. They were all late. We were all waiting outside the classrooms, and the hall was packed with 14-year-olds. Inevitably, a fight broke out between two kids. One of them was named Joe, and the other was named Luke, I think. I could be wrong on Luke. Joe was a huge prick who was in most of my classes, and Luke was a 7th grader that was also somewhat of a prick. There were punches and pushes thrown, but it was really had to see/hear it because of all the kids. In fact, I didn't even know what was going on until I heard a scream. In the hallway, there was a metal box on the wall that held the fire extinguisher. Joe had pushed Luke into it, and Luke hit the back on his head on the metal corner of it. Luke let out this blood-curdling scream, holding onto the back of his neck, crying and shouting, "My head!" Everyone backed away from them, and there I saw Joe standing still, looking horrified, and Luke, on his knees with a trail of blood running down the back of his neck and ear. It was my first time seeing so much blood that wasn't my own or on the internet, and it really startled us all. A janitor saw it, and unlocked all the classroom doors with his keys, and ordered us to get into class, which we did, while he took Luke to the nurse. Our teachers eventually came, but they couldn't let class out. The reason being, blood had gotten on the carpet of the hall, and that was a health hazard. After around 45 minutes, the janitor was unable to get the blood out, so he just put a trash can over it and told nobody to move or touch it. The day went on as usual. Around a week later we found out that Luke had to get 5 stitches in the nape of his neck, and his parents chose to pull him out of our school. Joe was also suspended for the fight, but apparently Luke's parents threatened legal action, so that suspension turned into an explosion rather quickly. Rubber padding was put around the fire extinguisher box so it wouldn't happen again, and to this day I don't know if the blood ever got out of the carpet. We had this girl in our school who was a year older than me. I didn't know her very well, but we sometimes made small talk. Soon I noticed she wasn't in school anymore, so I assumed she moved or something like that. 5 months later she came back to school, completely covered in self-harm scars, and by that I don't mean just the arms or legs, chest, her neck, her hands, and even her back had multiple scars. She avoided everyone and became a loner. Once I was going to the bathroom during the lesson, and when I opened the door she was standing there cutting herself and crying. I was mortified but sat next to her and just held her. We sat there for 20 minutes before a teacher came and quickly called the ambulance because she bled so much that we sat in a puddle of her blood. I will never forget how much she cried when medicals wanted to help her up, but she let out the most blood-freezing scream I ever heard. They had to restrain her so they could take her to a hospital. I sat there for some more time and just stared at my bloody appearance. I got sent home and just showered and went to bed. She was admitted to a mental hospital where I visited her, and she is doing much better now there. I visit her regularly and we became great friends.